Nearly 3 weeks of waiting, a funeral, dozens of press conferences, former NFL player Colin Kaepernick funding an independent autopsy conducted by the sitting president of the National Medical Association. And this morning, the final results were announced on a stage in Chicago in front of thousands at the NAACP National Convention. And the answer is, there is no answer. Nolan Wells' cause and manner of death, according to the preliminary report, remained undetermined, pending further investigation. But buried inside that same report is a detail that makes the story far more complicated than a simple undetermined result. When the independent forensic team began their work, they discovered Nolan's organs had already been removed during the first autopsy, conducted by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office itself. And that office, as of this morning, still hasn't released anything. Now let me restate the core principle of this entire series. This remains an active, ongoing investigation. No one has been charged with any crime. The content in this story is based on verified news reporting and public statements from all parties involved. On Monday, July 20th, hundreds gathered at a church in Ocean Springs, Nolan's hometown, to say goodbye. His mother, Christine Wells Wansley, said of her son, he had a way of making people feel seen, welcome, and valued. His father, Elmer Wansley, added, "You grew up to be a very young man that everyone enjoyed to be around." Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy. He urged the public to stay calm, to wait for more information before drawing conclusions. But at the same time, he raised a series of questions he said still had no answers. Why were Nolan's phone and keys in his friend's possessions? Why didn't they call the police the moment they realized he was missing? And why did local officials seem so quick to rule out the possibility of foul play? He invoked Mississippi's history of racist violence, the lynching of Emmett Till, the assassination of Medgar Evers, then addressed the state's law enforcement directly. Before we can medicate and heal today, we've got to look at your history. Attorney Ben Crump led the crowd in a chant, "Justice for Nolan Wells." Sharpton announced a $50,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Director Tyler Perry, who covered the full cost of the funeral, added another $50,000, bringing the total reward to $100,000. Director Spike Lee and former NFL player Terrell Owens were also in attendance. Ocean Springs High School head football coach Jake Bramlett told reporters ahead of the funeral, "He was a great young man to coach, and we are going to miss him dearly for it. But a little bit of his life that we got to be a part of was outstanding." Right after the funeral, at a press conference, Crump told reporters they were still waiting on the results of the independent autopsy, but those results would come soon. This morning, at the NAACP National Convention in Chicago, Crump formally announced, preliminary results from the independent autopsy show Nolan Wells' cause and manner of death are undetermined, pending further investigation. The exam was conducted by Dr. Roger Mitchell, president of the National Medical Association, one of the most respected medical organizations for Black physicians in the country. This isn't what the family or anyone who's followed this case for the past 3 weeks was hoping to hear. After all the questions, the contradictions, the calls for transparency, the final answer, at least at this stage, is there is no answer yet. Undetermined doesn't mean nothing to report, though. It means the exam didn't turn up enough evidence to reach a definitive conclusion. And more importantly, it doesn't rule anything out. It doesn't confirm a simple drowning. It doesn't confirm foul play either. Now, this is the least noticed detail in this morning's announcement, but most likely the most important one, for understanding why the result came back so unclear. According to Crump, when Dr. Mitchell's team gained access to Nolan's body to conduct the independent exam, his organs had already been removed during the first autopsy conducted by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office. Crump pointed to another disadvantage. You want stuff from the first autopsy because they had the body closer to time. We got the body almost 6 days later. He said the main goal of the independent exam was to determine whether Nolan had injuries to his body before drowning. To understand why this detail matters, it helps to know a bit about standard forensic procedure. In any autopsy, the internal organs, especially the lungs, heart, other viscera, typically hold the majority of the most critical evidence for determining cause of death. In a suspected drowning case, the lungs can indicate whether a victim was still breathing when they went underwater, a key detail for distinguishing drowning from another cause of death that occurred before entering the water. Once those organs have been removed, processed, and possibly sent somewhere else for testing, a second examining team loses most of its ability to directly assess those signs itself. This isn't an unprecedented situation. In numerous other nationally watched cases before this one, including several involving the deaths of Black individuals under the supervision of authorities, where families sought independent autopsies, the same pattern has repeated. The official medical examiner's office always has the advantage of the earliest, most complete access to the body. An independent team, however well-credentialed, is left working with whatever remains. This is one of the reasons chain of custody, the legal term for how evidence is handled, documented, and transferred between parties, becomes a recurring point of contention in cases with two parallel autopsies. Now, to be clear, removing organs during an autopsy is standard medical procedure, done in most exams to allow tissue and organ analysis. That action on its own isn't unusual. But there's no evidence the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office did this with any intent to hinder the second exam. But in the context of this particular case, where trust in the transparency of the original investigation was already shaken in week 1 by a premature no foul, no play suspected statement, this detail only sharpens the question of coordination, or the lack of it, between the two sides. Now here's the detail worth sitting with the most, alongside this morning's announcement. The Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office completed the first autopsy, the one with the advantages of earlier access to the body with all the organs intact, but as of this morning, still hasn't released any results, citing a pending toxicology report. In other words, the side holding the most information is the side that stayed silent the longest. If you've followed this series from the start, this detail won't feel entirely unfamiliar. It follows the same thread we've traced across 4 previous videos. A no foul play suspected statement made too early, before any autopsy results existed. Conflicting accounts between Nolan's group of friends and Katie over whether he planned to stay on the island or head back to the boat. And now a new information vacuum, this time not from social media rumors, but from the very agency responsible for providing the most authoritative answer. For 3 weeks, that vacuum has kept getting filled by rumors, by fabricated articles we ourselves warned about in our previous video. Now, even an independent result, produced by one of the most respected forensic experts in the country, can't fill it, because the very structure of the investigative process, who gets access to the evidence first, who gets to announce information first, put the independent team at a disadvantage from the very start. So here are the questions that we still need an answer for. 1. When will the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office release its official autopsy results? This remains the report most likely to contain the fullest information, but no specific timeline has been given. 2. What will the toxicology results, the reason being cited for the delay, reveal? This is the final piece both autopsies are still waiting on. 3. Did Dr. Mitchell and his team find any signs of injury on what remained of the body? This morning's announcement only gave a general, undetermined conclusion, without detailing what specifically was examined. 4. Will the case move to a grand jury on the timeline District Attorney Angel Myers McIlrath previously confirmed, and if so, when? 5. Will the questions Reverend Al Sharpton raised at the funeral about the phone, about friends not calling police immediately, be answered as the investigation continues? 3 weeks ago, a family began a journey to answer the simplest question any parent deserves to know. How did my child die? Today, after a funeral, after dozens of press conferences, after an independent autopsy conducted by one of the most respected forensic experts in the country, the answer is still, we don't know. There's something worth reflecting on here, beyond the Nolan Wells case alone. When two autopsies exist side by side, one official, one independent, the point usually isn't for one to replace the other, but to create a layer of cross-verification, a way for the public to trust that the truth, whatever it is, gets confirmed from multiple independent sides. But when the second exam is always at a structural disadvantage, arriving later, with less physical evidence to work with, that layer of cross-verification weakens considerably. Not because anyone deliberately sabotaged it, but simply because of the timeline of the forensic process always favors whoever arrives first. That's the paradox Nolan's family and many other families like his is in similar situations across the country. And they have to face it. The right to request an independent autopsy exists on paper, but its real value depends heavily on how transparent and cooperative the party holding the evidence first chooses to be. So what do you think about this whole thing? What do you think it says about the transparency of this investigation? That the state medical examiner's office is still silent, even after the independent results have been announced? And if the right to an independent autopsy doesn't come with a right to fair access to evidence, is it still a meaningful safeguard or just a procedural formality? Let us know what you think in the comments, with respect for a family still waiting for answers. If you want to know the moment the state medical examiner's office releases its official results, hit subscribe. Turn on notifications right now. We'll update you the moment there's a new development, not a minute sooner, and never based on rumor.